Welcome to Season 1, Episode 6 of A Story Club Global Cultures. This is a unique venture streaming simultaneously from Trinidad and Tobago in the Caribbean, Dehra Dun in India, and San Francisco in the United States. We speak with people from around the world, trying to understand different cultures, their uniqueness, their problems and their issues, and how we can all learn and work together while remaining grounded in our distinctive cultural matrices. Now, today's episode is entitled Caribbean Heavy Metal and Indian Blues, Non-Traditional Music Scenes. My guests are the esteemed and very well-known Nigel Rojas, the guitarist and lead singer of the Caribbean's biggest rock metal band, Orange Sky. Well, rock band, let's put it that way. Orange Sky, and Rudy Wallang, an equally prestigious and famous musician from India, the guitarist of India's biggest blues band, Soulmate. Welcome, gentlemen.
Thank you, Kirk.
Right. I'm really glad to have you guys on the show, and because these are things that are not usually discussed, like when you speak about Indian music or Caribbean music, it's the same thing over. It's the same thing over and over again. And a lot of the musics that are produced in these countries, very diverse and very talented people, are overlooked. So I wanted to at least try to redress that a bit today on this show. And I suppose both of you are eminent in your field and in your niche in both countries. So I'd like to start off by asking you guys, what's it like playing this so-called, foreign or Western music in your countries as opposed to the popular local or national musics? Let me start off with Rudy and then Nigel. So Rudy.
All right. See, growing up in Shillong, I'm from Shillong in India. Growing up here, Western music has been a part of our lives and our culture for a very long time. Ever since the Second World War, and prior to that, when the missionaries, Christian missionaries, came to this part of the world.
Mm-hmm.
So they brought in their hymns with them. So a lot of people learned these hymns. They learned to sing. The Welsh missionaries had come in. And then it was the British and the American forces that had come in to this part of the country.
So are you yourself Christian?
Yeah, I'm a Christian.
Right.
Yeah.
So like
Meghalaya is like,
for generations, kind of, you've been a Christian family?
That's right. Meghalaya is almost like a majority Christian state,
I was unaware of that. Mm-hmm.
Yeah. So the other side of it was when the British and the American soldiers came in during the Second World War. So Shillong being, the place that it is right now, beautiful weather,
right,
and beautiful climate. So what the soldiers and the tea planters and all did was use Shillong as a summer capital. So when they would, because
it's like like Shimla is famous in India for like so it's like that. Right. So right, it's not as hot. It's kind of in the mountains.
That's right. Yeah. So we're about 3,000 feet above sea level.
Okay.
So it's a very pleasant climate here, and so these soldiers, and we had a lot of tea planters, British tea planters in Assam.
Right.
So they would use Shillong as their summer capital. Whenever it got too hot in Assam, they would all come up to Shillong, and with them they brought their music.
Right.
So people like my dad. My dad was a musician.
Yes.
And so
what did he play? What instrument did he play?
He played the guitar. He was a crooner, actually. He was a vocalist.
Okay.
But then he played the drums as well, and he played a bit of piano. He played a bit of acoustic bass.
Right.
So So for me, I mean, my initial introduction into Western music, not the blues,
Yeah.
but just generally listening to rock and roll,
Hmm.
was through music that these people brought with them.
So in a sense, where you're from in Meghalaya is kind of like Goa in a sense, long mixture with Western culture. And right,
That's right.
yeah,
That's
okay,
right.
right,
We had all that. I mean, besides the Christian angle to it, so we had this other side where the Western music, and they would have a lot of jam sessions in the evenings
right.
where bands would play and then people would go in and dance and that kind of stuff. So my dad, my first experience with music was when my dad would play in Calcutta on Park Street in Calcutta. Park
Hmm.
Street in the 60s, 70s was like the hot spot. It was like what Beale Street in Memphis would be.
Right.
So it
Okay.
had all the bands. Yeah, and
So
my
so
and
so
my dad.
in other words, for you, it's not really that unusual at all from where you're from, but maybe in the context of India, it's seen as unusual in a sense. Is that right?
Exactly.
Right,
Exactly.
right, right,
Yeah.
right. You know,
Besides,
I went to school to a Catholic school in Toronto in the 1980s. There were hardly
all right.
any Indian people at all. I think like like five or something like that. And the other all most of the others, I was the only Trinidadian. There was another the other people were from Goa. I had no idea what a Goan was. People used to call me a Goan. I didn't know what that meant. Where am I going? but 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 all the Goans were into heavy metal, and they formed this like heavy metal Goan band. It was really to like Slayer and King Diamond and all that kind of stuff. That's very interesting. Let's move it to
Yeah.
Nigel now. So in the Caribbean, reggae outside people talk about reggae, and then in Trinidad, of course, soca, calypso, steel pan. These are the national musics, and it's promoted as national culture. And so so what's it like for you, um, you know, being in the rock music scene as opposed to these other scenes?
Well, Trinidad's music is soca and calypso music. We're the most southerly isle of the tropical Caribbean. So because of that, our music is different to the music of the Northern Caribbean, which is reggae and souk and all that in the French-speaking areas of the Caribbean. Being in the most southerly island, I think that we get that from South America. We get our rock spirit from South America because
Uh,
we're only 7 miles from Venezuela.
Mm-hmm.
We're closer to
right.
Venezuela than we are to any other Caribbean island, including our own sister island, Tobago, which is 22 miles away. So I've always felt that the kindred spirit and that rock metaphysical feeling that we have in Trinidad that doesn't exist in any other island,
Yeah.
that rock community has a lot to do with that South American spirit down there.
Even your name, Rojas, that's Spanish, isn't it?
Yes, Rojas is Spanish.
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
My great grandfather is from Spain, and
Okay.
he and his brothers came to Venezuela, and to start a life. And one of the brothers came to Trinidad, and he met my grandmother, and he had my dad and all that and whatnot. So my grandfather is Venezuelan, and we
Mm-hmm.
had a lot of time growing up in Venezuela, going to on holidays. Because the flight to Caracas is only 50 minutes away. And in the 70s and the 80s, Venezuela was like New York City. It was like taking a 40-minute flight from the third world to what seemed at the time like the first world. There were subways and highways and tunnels and cities and infrastructure that was way beyond what we had in Trinidad and Tobago at the time.
Yeah,
So
that's right.
my view of Venezuela growing up was like a New York City or Chicago, like a major city like London or something,
Mm-hmm.
But of course,
Nigel, just excuse me. Your voice, it's kind of breaking. I don't know if maybe if you have headphones handy, if that might help or not. But if not, we can hear you. It's just cracky. That's all with the sound.
I'm I'm so sorry. I don't have a pair of headphones.
Okay, that's
Can you hear me
fine.
now? Am I talking okay?
Yeah. I actually hear you better.
Okay, so Venezuela became, but I mean, Trinidad and Tobago is an anomaly, an orange sky in Trinidad is an anomaly.
That's right.
That people expect our national music is calypso and soca. So if you're a rock artist, you pretty much belong to some type of subculture, So
Right.
we still have a big following and we still have a big rock community in Trinidad and Tobago. Strange enough, our rock community, I would say, is 98% East Indian.
Yeah.
When you go to
In fact, I think they were kind of in the early days, like in the 80s and maybe 90s when the scene was starting. It was like there were two separate scenes, kind of like a West dominated scene, which was more sort of white and mixed, and then a central South scene, which was kind of more Indian. And they were separate in a lot of ways, but over time they became integrated. But it was one thing I used to find really strange when I was going into high school up in Canada, and thrash metal was underground. It was never played on radio. It was underground up there, right? But when I used to when I would come back to Trinidad and be with my family and my cousins and everything, and I would see people wearing Slayer shirts and Metallica. It was amazing how I would see it like more popular here than up there. There's this, it's like, I don't know if it has to do with the guitar. Dave Chappelle has a very funny skit where he talks about how African, black people instinctively just respond to the drum. Huh?
Yeah.
With John Mayer, yeah.
John Mayer,
just instinctively respond to the drum. Whereas when John Mayer pulled out his guitar, all the white people were, but maybe the Indians feel that kind of thing too towards a string instrument. I don't know if it's the Indo-European background or something, but
I
there's
have tried
something
to
about that.
understand it. I have tried to understand it for a long time. I've tried to understand it for a long time, but I still can't come to a conclusion as to what causes this anomaly. But it exists. And it still exists today.
Yeah.
But being a musician in Trinidad doing this type of music is challenging because it's not the national music.
That's right.
But we've still been able to have a good run. We've still been able to tour the U.S. several times. And play in India and perform in England and all over the Caribbean. So the music has also taken me across the world,
Yeah.
And me and my brother, so sometimes you appreciate it more out of your home than in your home,
That's right. Yeah.
One of those cases.
Exactly.
Yeah. Like when you your album was produced by it was the producer of Kansas, correct? And you went on tour around through that link. Is that
Jeff
right?
Glicksman,
Am I right? Sorry?
Yeah, with Jeff Glicksman, who is the producer of Kansas. Jeff Glicksman, who produced Kansas. He produced the famous albums with Dust in the Wind and Carry On My Wayward Son and all that. He discovered Orange Sky. And he formed the band and said, "No, we have to work together." And he brought in Kansas's manager, who is Phil Ehart. He's their manager for the last 20 years or whatever. He's also their drummer, right? So he came to Trinidad and he studied band, and we met and we went into a partnership that lasted almost 9 years. And in those 9 years, we did 2 albums with them. One with Granite Records out of Los Angeles, and then the second one out with Star City Records out of Pennsylvania.
Right.
So between those 2 album deals, we did a 26-city tour, a 44-city tour for Ingrid Malmsteen, and then we did an 87-city tour, which took like a year and a half.
So that was with so that was with Ingrid Malmsteen. You said you did a tour, and who else was the other?
We did 44 cities with Ingrid.
Yeah.
And then we did another 26 cities with Ingrid.
Right.
Then we toured with King's X, Dockland, Buck Cherry, Adima, a whole lot of other bands, 2 shows here, 3 shows there, Kansas as well, But the long tours have been like Malmsteen and King's X.
Right. So that was kind of like a metal and kind of progressive metal scene that
Yeah.
the audience. Right.
Yeah.
Right. Interesting. Now, Rudy, let me ask you now. You describe your scene in India as being sort of normal in a sense, from where you are. It's not that unusual, although in the national context it is unusual. Have you faced any kind of I don't know, hostility or criticism, because you're playing Western music and foreign music, and it's not nationalistic, or and maybe it's sort of a um, imperialistic or Westernizing. Have you come across that at all in your career?
Thank God I've never really had to go through that. We've never been through that.
Okay.
I think the acceptance. The thing is, Western music in India, besides Shillong, um, the rest of India, like Mumbai and Calcutta, these were the two main places that actually, um, you know, kind of laid the foundation for Western music.
Mm-hmm.
Calcutta, I mean, everything started off there, I think. I feel
Right.
that, back in the 60s, with the ports and the ships coming in and all the shippies coming into town,
Yeah.
and they would all offload and get onto Park Street and celebrate, and all those restaurants down the line in Park Street, you know.
Yeah.
So that's where this mix of cultures and the music happened,
And
and my dad had,
more recently, although this is not your scene, but more recently, like in the 90s, right? When I was doing my, so I'm saying more recently in the historical perspective because it's still a while back.
Yeah.
When I was doing my PhD up in the UK, it was a big thing for people from Europe to go to Goa for rave parties, electronic.
They still do that.
Right. Yeah. So I was amazed. Like that was a big thing. People would go from all over Europe would go to these very famous raves. Is that connected in any way at all to what you're talking about?
Not really, not really, not with Shillong, not with where I'm from,
Yeah. Because you
it's
have
like,
these big music festivals there, right? Jack Daniels. Did you all pioneer that or no?
Not really. I mean, the Jack Daniels festivals would have started happening maybe sometime in the late 90s.
Okay.
But that was just one, But then we have the NH7,
what is that?
NH7, which is one of the biggest festivals in India, and it happens. It's I think now 8-9 years down the road.
So what does that mean?
And
NH7. Why?
NH would be National Highway 7.
Okay.
It started off in Pune in Maharashtra.
Okay.
That's where it first started off, and then they took this festival all over India.
Okay.
So they have this festival happening in maybe 5 different cities consecutively.
But it's named after a highway, like Route 66 or something.
Something like that.
Yeah.
Except for this year. This year because of the lockdown and stuff, So so the NH7 festival, one of the biggest festivals, they get people like Steve Vai and they've all come and played here.
Right. Okay.
All the big names. It's quite a big festival.
Right.
So that's one festival, and then we have the Mahindra. You've heard of the Mahindra company?
Yes, they make trucks and yeah.
So the owner, Mr. Anand Mahindra, he's a big blues fan.
Okay.
Yeah. So about 9 years ago,
Well,
9 years ago.
Because they sell a lot in the South in the United States, like Mississippi and Alabama, the big truck fleet. Yeah, go on.
They have the Mahindra Blues Festival happening in Mumbai every February.
Right. Okay, interesting.
Second week in Feb. So we've had Buddy Guy, we've had Keb Mo, we've had Taj Mahal, all the big names in the blues coming and performing in India.
Nice.
And
Nice.
yeah, and Soulmate's been part of that scene for a long time now.
Let me bring it to Nigel now about the question of, like, hostility and criticism, playing foreign music. Do you have any experience of that, of people criticizing you, saying this is not really our music and things like that?
Not really. I mean, because Orange Sky is celebrating 25 years this year.
Yeah, but when you started out, now you're an institution, but how about when you started out?
Yeah, of course, we were criticized a lot. Even from family members who said, well, why are you singing music that's not our national music? Why are you singing something that's not culture?
Yeah.
And then I had to explain that, well, this is what I love. I love this kind of music, and this is what it is. Rudy, for a very long time, I love the blues as well. The blues is a massive part of my influence in my life, Everyone
Right.
from the early Robert Johnson days to I love Albert Collins. Albert Collins.
Oh, my hero. My hero.
Stevie Vaughan, etc. Everybody, a whole range of blues guitarists are my people. I'm a blues guitar player too. That's what I play. My style is the blues. So I really, really love your stuff. I've been able to see some of your work through it, and it's such a very, very honor to meet you and to be, to hear your work. It's really, really fantastic.
One thing sorry, go on. You were going to say something, Nigel?
We've been criticized for not doing calypso music and all that stuff. But, at the end of the day, this is what we love. And know what art is. Art means that if you feel good, you have to feel good first.
Yeah.
And then you can share it with other people. So it just feels good. Rock and blues has always felt good to me, from Elvis Presley, Chuck Berry days, all those times. I'm 49 years old, so I grew up in the 70s. So I was able to get the tail end of all that good stuff. What I mean? All the good stuff.
What's interesting? I've seen in the scene, here in Trinidad, when it started out, so people playing covers, right? They're basically playing like Iron Maiden covers and Black Sabbath and whatever, and they're basically playing covers and they're singing like Americans. They sing like Brits or whatever. So whatever. And then even when they started to do their own songs, they were singing in American accents or British accents, even though it was their original songs. And then I don't know if it's, well, what was it before joint pop? What were they called again? Local, Oddfellows Local. I think that's how they were called first. I think Gary Hector might have been the first one, at least that I identify, to start to sing rock with a Trini dialect. Because for those of you that don't know, Trinidad has a special dialect of English, which is not quite standard English. And so he started to sing it in that. And I mean, all your music is using, Caribbean Trini, dialect in your work. You're not putting on an American accent. But was that how, there's something about, like, when I lived in Jamaica for 3 years, and when I finally understood the patois deeply, right, I realized, dancehall is just somebody putting a beat under a normal Jamaican talking. That's just the way they speak. And calypso music too is it's like somebody just playing some music behind a Trini telling a story. It is so natural. Like, so the music and the voice is so natural together. They're organically linked. And so rock was linked to, so like new wave and punk, people will start to sing with a British accent because it's organically linked. And rock, has that link. But did you find it difficult to kind of to indigenize the rock, which you've done? I think you've successfully been doing it for, how long now? 25 years. But was that a task for you to do, Nigel?
No, because it was unintentional. There was no plan to do it. The plan was just to write original music and to just be myself. And I'm a blues man. And blues men traditionally don't have good voices. we want to sing our music, you know what I mean? We want to play that guitar. The guitar will make up for the voice, you know what I mean? But yeah, I pretty much just set out to just play music and just to be original and do myself to win and see what happens. And it worked out. Thank God it worked out, you know. So, but, you know, I wouldn't say that we've been 100% accepted. The problems we've had with more like with family and friends. We're like, why don't you sing for the show? Why you haven't made enough money? You want to make more money, you should go and sing about grinding on a girl's butt or singing about stuff like that, you know, rather than.
Could you come a little closer to the mic? I think we're, yeah. So you're saying that they're criticizing you, you know, you should make more money, you should sing something more popular and whatnot, yeah.
Yeah, I'm saying stuff that is more party oriented and carnival and calypso oriented, which is, our music is wonderful music and it's very full of fun and it's celebratory and all of that. It's constantly on that, and it's very sensual and very sexy, and it's I wouldn't say it's vulgar, but it's rather suggestive, and that's one of the characters that make it beautiful. And you have the innuendos, loaded with sexual innuendos and that type of thing. I mean, it's a beautiful music, but it just wasn't my type of thing. You know, it wasn't my type of thing. I like to sing the blues. I keep saying the blues because we were here with Rudy, and I want him to understand that, you know, I mean, we're definitely brothers in that sense. And I know you could as well. Beyond rock, you're a blues man. That's where the background really is. Rock is blues. Rock started with the blues, and blues is slavery music.
Yeah,
blues is music that we're singing about. My master raped my wife yesterday. That's, you know what I mean. My friend died in the cotton field yesterday of exhaustion. That's what the original blues was. And then it turned into my baby left me and gone with another man. My baby did me wrong, and all that type of stuff. You know, and then it turned into all kind of things. You know. Blues now, in modern times, isn't even necessarily a good man feeling bad. Because that's what traditionally the blues is. The blues is a good man feeling bad and telling his story, you know?
Yeah.
And I mean, it has maintained that dignity in modern times, you know?
Yeah, so let me bring this question around to you now, Rudy, about indigenizing the music at all. Have you tried to do that? Have you felt any need or pressure to do that? What's been your experience with that?
No.
Yeah.
No, it's just been naturally. Where did I say? Oh, Rudy, sorry.
That's all right.
Well, no, Kirk. I mean, we've never really been under any pressure.
Yeah.
Thankfully. It's just that, we try. See, we all have our own experiences in life.
Yeah.
Everybody has the blues. We know where the blues, as blues musicians, we know where the blues comes from, the pain and suffering and the frustration and the anger, you know. But then in our day-to-day lives, all of us have the blues in some way or the other. It's just how we express it, you know. So being from Shillong, we have our own blues, you know. So we sing about that.
Right.
We sing about our experiences as human beings.
Right.
You know, and our experiences as human beings and the songs that we've written on our albums have touched a lot of people here in India. They've identified with the songs, with the lyrics, with the music. Right. You know, so I think the blues is no different across the whole world. Everybody's the same thing.
So is it your lyrics might sometimes deal with local topics more than is that what you're saying?
No, it's more personal.
More personal than right, yeah.
It's personal, you know. But at the same time, right now, what we're trying to do is I don't like this word fuse.
Yeah.
But in the end, it becomes like, you know, it becomes fusing with our local Khasi folk music.
Yes.
The local Khasi folk music is very rich. And it's about storytelling.
Yes.
You know, it's about storytelling, very similar to the blues.
Yeah.
So that's what we're trying. So we've got another side project called Soulmate and the Klansmen.
Okay.
Where our vocalist Tipriti, she sings in our local language. She sings in Khasi.
Okay.
And I play the guitar. We have our rhythm section, and we also have four local folk musicians playing folk instruments.
And what are the instruments? Are they drums? Are they stringed instruments? Are they flutes? What?
Yeah, exactly. All that.
Okay.
All that.
Right.
So it's interesting. So soon we'll be recording an album of a mix of traditional Khasi folk music and the blues.
Yeah.
But I don't want the two to kind of collide.
Right. Yeah. You're
It's got
a kind of purist in a sense.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yes.
No, I could tell by your playing, you are deep into you're a purist. I love your playing. I love your playing.
Thank you.
And but this is a very interesting thing. I want to bring this up. Right. So Nigel rightly was talking about, I mean, of course, the blues comes from, the Southern United States, just like, rock and roll, country music. The Southern United States is the capital really of American culture. But anyways, and the now
It's also,
sorry? What's that?
No, I'm sorry to interject. I'm sorry to interject, but the South of America is also.
Uh-oh. I think he's frozen.
It's hanging there.
Yeah. Are you still there, Nigel?
Sorry,
yeah.
Are you there? Are you there?
Yeah. Okay, starting, and you said you were interjecting to say the Southern United States is also, and then we lost you.
Okay, it's also the location of the most atrocious, the human atrocity, the worst human atrocity in recorded history, which is slavery for centuries.
That's
right. So that I believe that metaphysically, that's the reason why that there's pain in the earth, there's pain in the soil, literally. There's pain in the land. And that is where the vibrations come from that create the blues, that create that sense of what Rudy is saying, which is just basically telling you a story.
Yeah.
But the story ain't always going to be nice. It comes from a place of a lot of atrocity. It comes from a place of untold pain,
And then making beauty out of it, which is amazing.
Which is a miracle. That's the miracle of it. That's the miracle of it.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
And the Caribbean is linked to the Southern United States as plantation societies. So we have that link. But now, but what's interesting is one of the best blues guitarists, Derek Trucks. I don't know if you know him, Nigel.
Yeah, I do.
That man is incredible. What he does with the guitars, it's just on a whole other level. B.B. King's jaw just drops when he sees him. He said he's never heard the blues play better. He plays with this slide technique that mimics a soul singer. It's like if the listeners are interested in that, it's like nothing you've ever heard before. You should go on YouTube, look at Derek Trucks compilation. In fact, there's a compilation video which is incredible. But he got that technique from studying with Nusrat Fateh Ali Khan or a Qawwali. I don't know if it's Nusrat Fateh Ali Khan, but because is it Nusrat? Okay, because one of the thing about the blues, and this is when we get into a little music theory here. The Western scale is divided into 12 equal tones, and Bach had introduced that, I believe, sometime in the 17th century. Because even before, the Western music scales were different, like the Greek scales and the Dorian and Phrygian and all this kind of stuff, where you had perfect thirds, perfect fourths, perfect fifths. But in the scale that we are used to in Western music now, you no longer have these perfect thirds, perfect fourths. You do have a perfect fifth and an octave, but you don't have the perfect. That's what Eddie Van Halen did when he tuned down his B string a little to get a perfect third, and that's why that's the secret to his sound, and nobody can copy that. So when he does Panama or whatever with the thirds and the suspended chords, it sounds different because he's tuning it different. And this is the blues. The blue note is actually not a flat third. It's somewhere in between a flat third and a major third. And so you have to bend the note to get right in between. and that's when you hit the blue note, right? So they're obviously taking the African musical scale into Western music, and the Western music scale doesn't have the blue note, which they love so much, that particular note between the flat third and the major third. So the bends take you right there. And this is what Derek Trucks learned, because Indian music divides it all into the microtones, 24 microtones. So you see this kinship in all this music. Rudy, so do you see that kind of link there? I know you love your bends, and you do it so well, and you're getting in between the notes when you do it. Are you informed by that at all, or is it just something you instinctively felt?
It's all about what I feel.
Yeah.
It's all about what I feel inside, in my heart, and what I have in my mind.
Yeah.
I think in the blues that's what the blues is about.
Well, you
very
develop the ear to feel it. That's it.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Exactly. Like, I've never studied music, so I wouldn't know about all these other things.
Right.
But then I know what it feels like
Yeah.
to get into that space.
Yeah. Because it can't be
And
found on the piano. You can't find that note on the piano.
unless you have a bender.
That's right. Exactly. Yeah, that's right. And Nigel now.
That's actually, necessity is the mother of invention. Maybe someone should think about having a piano with one of those benders. Rudy, we'll send you the patent number, all right? That would be a fantastic thing. I know keyboards have them. The electronic synthesizers have the benders, but a piano, maybe they could really apply something that could give that piano tone, but with the bend. I mean,
to bend a note.
That would be nice.
Yeah. And then you get a Jimi Hendrix of the piano coming. Yeah. Now you were talking about yourself, Nigel, about people saying, well, why don't you make soca music, party music, something for carnival, and you eventually did with Bungee Garland. It became a huge hit. I love it. Amazing song, and it became a international hit as well. Ready for the Road. That's it. So you can look that up on YouTube. Amazing song. And you were playing Spanish guitar on that. But tell me, what was your experience with that, moving from the kind of niche rock audience, of your royalty in that audience, and then now you went to the soca stage, the big stage, and what was that like, moving between those two scenes?
Artistically, it was amazing because it was a nice breath of fresh air, to perform. And this is the first time in a while that a soca song was done in a minor key.
Right.
And because of that, I was able to then add something to it.
That's interesting, because all the early calypsos were done in minors, eh?
Yes.
Yeah,
correct.
but
That's
soca, you're right. Soca is not done in minor keys. Yeah.
Not very often at all. So up to that point in time, not at all. So when I first heard the idea of the song, and I heard Bungie invited me to the studio to come, check out where it was, and the producer was there. It was a minor key, and the first thing that struck me was, wow, this thing could use a nice nylon string guitar, putting some licks on the inside there. It would be the first time, but it was calling for it,
Yeah.
So I got my guitar out of the car, and I started to jam, I started to play, and I told the guys, I didn't even know he was recording it. I thought he was just letting me warm up.
Right.
By the time I was done, he was like, okay, that's it. All I really did was the harmonic minor scale and just messing around with it. People call it the Spanish guitar, but I mean, it's just the harmonic minor scale. Once you play it on an acoustic guitar, it sounds Spanish. By nature, it just sounds Spanish, That was it. I mean, that was an amazing experience artistically for those reasons. And then, of course, the people who've been asking all these years that you should be doing calypso, you should be doing soca, well, they got their fill.
Yeah.
Because the song was like a tsunami locally. It did really, really well. And it was just a fantastic experience. Really great artistic experience. Very fulfilling experience as well. because of that, doors opened for me as a songwriter, and I started to write for all the local artists, for some of the top local artists, you know. So I've had the experience in the last couple of years.
You mean in soca as well?
Oh yes, especially soca. I've written for Dehra Dun, Shillong, Manchester, Blast, Patrice Roberts, Sosu Roberts, Ricky Jai, Ravi B. You know, you name it. I've worked with them. I also work with the Steel Plan. I've written with Rudy Wallang with Phase 2 and with One Panorama with me as a co-composer. I've written with him 3 times. I've also written with Renegades, and I've gotten second and third place in Panorama as well. So I'm there in the subculture. I'm there in the culture, but in the background as a writer. You know, that was my involvement.
And for the international audience that might not know some of the people, I mean, he's talking about steel pan music with Renegade. He's talking about chutney music, which is a kind of Bhojpuri based folk music that's become popular music and electronified and sort of blended with soca as well, and that's a very popular music here as well, especially among the Indian population. Sorry? Is it Nigel?
So pretty much what people call like East Indian soca. East Indian soca, basically.
Yeah, soca.
Yeah, and yes. So that's very interesting there. And that brings me to the question about making a living as a musician. Let me get to you, Rudy, about that. You know, the music scene, the international music scene. You know, when I try to think of it historically, in the broad sweep of history, musicians have never been wealthy people, actually. Right? They were maybe court musicians. You might have a few, but it's a kind of 20th century phenomenon of this American music industry that's made these huge superstars, and it's kind of actually a very tight circle controlled by a few record companies and a few sort of industry heads. But people think it's so big now because people didn't have radios before. You didn't have music 24/7. You used to have to go somewhere to listen to music. So this is a very modern phenomenon created in a very specific thing, although it's pervasive. Right. Now, if you're not plugged into that circuit, signed on a major record label with one of these major companies that's plugged into all the distribution channels throughout the world, well, then I guess you're into the generally historical context of the musician's life, which is not necessarily a multimillionaire in a hotel with all one of the swimming pool and cars and whatnot. So what's it been like in terms of the scene there? Can you make a living from the scene there as a musician only, or do you have to do other things? Or what's it like from the economic side? Being a musician.
Right now, the way I am, I've been making music for the last 39 years. So I started off in 1980 or 1981, somewhere around then, And my dad, who was a musician before me, didn't want me to be a musician, didn't want me to take up music as a career. He said, because later on you're going to have a family, and he said, you're not going to make a living to support your family. I didn't understand him at that point of time. But then right now I can understand him totally, where he was coming from, because those days musicians didn't make enough money to support their family. They would have, like I was saying, they have the odd gigs, the dance, the jam sessions every weekend, and maybe paid maybe 100, 200 rupees. That was back then. Mm-hmm. But lucky enough, right now in India, I think where we're concerned, where Soulmate is concerned, we've been together for the last 17 years, and we've been doing pretty well. In the sense that we've got a lot of tours happening, and that's how, I live off music.
Right. So
I live off music.
Very good.
I'm able to, but right now, because of Corona, thanks to Corona, the last 6-7 months there's no income.
Yeah.
Except for a few live streams that we've been doing on Facebook.
Yeah.
And contributions from fans and friends, that's what it's been like.
Right.
But otherwise, I mean, we've been blessed enough to be able to travel the country, travel outside the country, make music, and we've been able to survive.
Very good. Yeah.
It's not easy, It's not easy. It hasn't been easy for us since we've been around for a long time and being one of the major blues bands in India. So we have a kind of
Yeah.
a place.
Yes.
Yeah.
And you teach, is it you teach or you mentor other musicians as well, is that correct?
I've just started teaching. In fact, I mean, I have a class tomorrow,
Yeah.
tomorrow evening. But this is something new for me, But I mean, I teach in the sense that there are a lot of young musicians that come to me for advice and for help. So I try and help them, And anything for music. For me, music is uh, music is the biggest part of my life, and I'm just one of the wheels in this vehicle.
Right.
I'm
now,
maybe the driver.
you have
or
a
something.
chauffeur.
Yeah, a chauffeur, yeah.
What about you, Nigel? I mean, I know a lot of the people in some of the people in the music scene here too, and I mean, it's pure love. They're not making much money from it, but they just love it. It's a passion. So they're doing graphic artists, or they're salesmen, or they're teachers, or whatever they are. Um, you have been able to achieve a stature that a lot of others haven't. But I know you actually write jingles and other things, and so you've been doing this other stuff. So what's it like, in terms of an industry as a profession, for you particularly, and I suppose in general in the Trinidad Caribbean music scene?
In general, in Trinidad, my fellow musicians, I mean, everyone that I know has a 8 to 4 job.
Yeah.
I am probably the only musician I know that's been brave enough to try to do a full-time thing.
Yeah.
And because of
Same.
that, I've had to, live the consequences of being poor. I'm poor.
Yeah.
I'm a poor man. I don't own anything. I don't own a house. I'm poor. Me and my wife got married in the backyard, so that when they threw the rice, the chicken get fed one time. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
There have been times where I had to rely on prostitution, but not just joking.
Bombshell.
No, but it's been challenging in terms of economics and whatnot. But just like Rudy said, when music is in your life and it's in your heart, it's a calling, and you're going to do it regardless. The money part of it has never really been a factor. Unfortunately, my family, my kids, and my ex-wife had to sort of strap themselves onto that roller coaster,
Yeah.
And I feel bad about that, man. But at the same time, have we ever had financial success? Absolutely not. I perform at the Hyatt Hotel 3 nights a week. I do 3 concerts a week, and that was my steady income for 4 years. And when COVID started in March, we're told, well, we'll call you when the hotel starts back with our occupancy, some kind of occupancy, and borders are closed. So from March till now, I haven't had a paycheck. I've been living off just the grace of the Almighty,
Yeah.
and that's it, So, but I'm not the only one, and that consoles me. I know there's a lot of people around across the world that are experiencing the same thing.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? It's not just me.
Yeah.
And that consoles me. If it was just me right now, I'd probably want
to kill somebody.
Jump off the Empire State Building with a polka dot umbrella.
I mean, but yeah, this is something, because I mean, from before, I suppose, being in a smaller niche and having not as many opportunities. I mean, but even for like our main soca artists, I mean, what was important for them, I think, is that we established carnivals throughout the world. So like in New York, they'd have one on Labor Day. In Toronto, they'd have one in Carabana in August sometime. You'd have Notting Hill Carnival. You'd have Miami Carnival. then later Jamaica and some of the other. So they would be able to go from place to place and make some money in these little things.
Yeah.
But even those big artists now with COVID, that, I mean, I don't know if we'll ever be able to travel again. The government seem to love this lockdown. They love this.
Absolutely.
I am very much opposed to the whole thing, but that's another show.
One thing COVID did do is level the playing field. It has leveled the playing field. In other words, even tonight, even Stevie Wonder or Paul McCartney or Elton John can't play anywhere.
That's
and
right.
These guys could sell out a stadium in 1 hour, less than an hour, sell out a stadium, and they can't play up tonight. So
exactly.
It's like, okay, well, we all home. We all at home. We all accept. My idea of my consequences would be not being able to buy groceries, and Paul McCartney's consequences is like he can't get that fifth Lamborghini in 2020. But we all have consequences, though, and we're all home.
Yeah. So what do you? How are you coping with this? And are you? Have you had to shift practices, or I mean, I see people are trying to do collaborative things through Zoom. Like I saw for the Biden Kamala Harris thing. The people who sing the song "Love Train," is it the OJs? I can't remember if it's the OJs, but one of those 70s soul groups. So they were doing this thing, and they were each in their own room, and it sounded good and whatnot, but I don't know if that's the future of concerts. Now, I have no idea. I mean, I'm sure you've been thinking about this, but Rudy, what have you been thinking about going ahead in the future with, because we don't know how long this madness is going to be, where airlines are shut down and who knows who can travel, all this madness.
The thing is, right now, the thing is we have to move with the times.
Yeah.
We have to move with the times. We have to roll with the times. So ever since the lockdown happened, I was like, initially, all right, a little break happening. But then when the reality set in, like, this is going to be a long haul. Things are not going to be normal for a long time. And we're not probably going to be playing for a long time, playing live. So I have my studio here. I mean, it was a recording studio, and I kind of reinvented the place. It's called the Hole in the Wall. So generally just made a hole in the wall, made the space bigger. So we're trying to do some live streams from here. We're planning to do one on the 20th, next Sunday.
Right.
Yeah. So, the thing is we have to try and work with the times. I mean,
that's
we
interesting.
We can't just sit back, we just can't sit back.
In the past few years, Daryl Hall and Stuart Copeland have been doing these kind of live streams from their basements or little home studios. They've been really amazing. Is this something like that you're talking about?
Yeah, I hope it happens. The thing is, for us, it's not only for the band, not only for Soulmate, but there are a lot of young bands that were coming up in Shillong.
Yeah.
So if things work out, we'd like to give them a platform where they can, play, because, for a musician in the end, like Nigel said, it's not about the money, it's the passion,
That's right.
So if they can come and play, and if they can, Facebook is apparently, like I saw today, they're going to set up an event page where you can stream live and earn some money.
Okay.
So we're looking at that right now. So where we can sell tickets for an event and stream live. So if that happens, if that works out, then maybe the younger bands, the younger artists would have something to look forward to.
Nice.
For us, I've been playing for a long time. I love playing. This is my life.
Yeah.
But I feel bad for the younger generation of musicians that are just starting out, suddenly they're getting into it, and suddenly this whole thing is like dead. And a lot of them go through depression and stuff like that, because they don't know what the next move is going to be.
Yeah.
Especially if they have that passion for music,
Absolutely.
and they have parents to deal with. They have to explain to their parents, like, I love music. And the parents say, no, but you can't make money off this now. So it's a big mess right now, man.
Yeah.
And I think we all have to work together to come through this.
Yeah.
I believe tomorrow's going to be much better. I
Right.
believe that.
It has to be.
It has to be.
Yeah.
It has to be.
Nigel, what about you? With the lockdown and all this stuff, have you been trying? Have you been sort of rethinking, retooling? Obviously it's affected you with the Hyatt gig and all that. What? How have you been thinking about
Well, I mean,
approaching this?
it's the most devastating economic time of my adult life, right?
Yeah.
And it's challenging. And as Rudy says, we have to adapt.
Yeah.
As Bruce Lee says, be water. We have to try to be in whatever shape or form the best as we could be to suit the times.
Yeah.
So that's what I've done. I wake up every day and I try to be positive. Orange Sky is right now doing a brand new EP. So we're still in the middle of all this drama. We still found ourselves in the studio recording. We were there up to 4 o'clock this morning.
Nice.
I sent you a couple of these.
Yeah. You gave me a sneak peek, a couple of songs, really good songs.
I'd love to listen to
very
that.
fortunate. We still feel very fortunate to be able to play and whatnot. And as I said, sometimes you have to throw yourself to the wind and leave yourself in the hands of destiny to allow everything to happen the way it's supposed to. And in these times, I don't swim against that current at all. It's exhausting to the spirit. If you're in chapter 4, you can't be in chapter 6, even if you want to be. The hands of destiny will turn those pages.
Yeah.
And as I get older, just learning that patience and learning to just adapt. As Rudy said, it's about adapting and accepting. The things that you can't change.
Yeah.
And music helps with that. Music is medicine. Music is magic. So that's what sustains us, honestly, sustains the spirit, and then everything else falls into place,
Please, yeah, absolutely.
Well, we're reaching the end of the show. That's a great note to kind of go out on. But before we leave, I just want to ask you guys if there's anything you're working on that you want our audience to know about, where they can find you and your music, your merch, or whatever you have, your where they can find you on the web or wherever. Let's start with you, Rudy.
Well, it was my birthday on the 14th.
Oh, and happy birthday.
We just released...
Happy birthday. Happy birthday.
Thanks, Nigel. Thanks, Kirk. We just released... we launched our website. So it's www.soulmateshillong.com.
And Shillong is spelled?
SHILLONG.
Right. So we'll put that in the description, definitely.
And, so it has all the links to our Facebook page, Instagram, my Instagram page, and then the merchandise. Everything is over there.
Very good.
So once you get in that, you're into the Soulmate world.
Right. Good. And Nigel?
You could just pull up Orange Sky on YouTube, or you can check out our Facebook page, Orange Sky or Nigel Rojas, But I really wish one day that I could play music with you, Rudy. Maybe have a blues man down, just sit and play some blues, you know what I mean? I wish we could have done it online. If you got a guitar, we could just sit down and play a little thing, you know what I mean? Maybe next time we could do that.
Let's keep it. I was just going to say that. And I hope you come to India. I hope everything is okay next year for the NH7 festival. I'm going to spread the word around. And I hope Orange Sky makes it to India.
I would love to.
Yeah.
I would love to. We played in India before. We performed in Mumbai, Bangalore, and New Delhi. And it was one of the most amazing experiences.
Beautiful. Okay.
I love India, and that would be great. That would be awesome.
All right, man.
Yeah. That's great. I'm glad you guys connected too. I love bringing people that I like together. I knew you guys would like each other, and I'm glad for that. And I hope this enhances both of your music and careers. Both.
It's my absolute pleasure. Pleasure meeting you, Rudy, and thank you so much, Kirk, for having us.
Yeah, I know.
Nice to meet you too, Nigel and Kirk. Thank you.
Nice to meet you, my brother. Absolutely.
Well, thanks, guys, so much for this fascinating and interesting discussion. It's been a pleasure having you.
Our pleasure, man. Good luck. Have a good day.
Yeah.
I'm gonna.
Yeah.
My night's begun.
That's right. Well, you're a musician, so you may stay up whole night. I don't know what. I still have that schedule in my in my life. But
right.
that's it for this week's episode of A Story Club Global Cultures. We were talking with our guests Nigel Rojas from Orange Sky and Rudy Wallang from Soulmate on the topic Caribbean heavy metal and Indian blues, non-traditional music scenes. And I'd like to thank you, our audience, for watching and listening. But please join us again next week. And in the meanwhile, like, share, subscribe, and tell your friends about us. Thanks again, and see you next week.
Take care. Take care. Bye-bye.
Take care, brother. Bye.